All right, Dean, we are back from VARTECH 2025.
Yes, we are.
Semi-recovered.
Yeah, I still got a little cold.
Yeah.
You
sorry.
Picked
Picked up the VARTECH cough. It's like
yes.
It's like kennel cough, but for VARTECH.
Happens every year. Yeah.
We're still basking in the glow of another successful show.
We are.
Not because we're nicely tanned, even though we were in the Bahamas.
No, didn't see
I don't know
the
about
sun.
you. I think the only time I recall being out in the sunlight was at the launch party.
Yes.
That was for very briefly, maybe half an hour.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just.
And it was hot.
It was.
By the way. I was seeking shade at that point.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
That's
but no,
point.
we didn't get to enjoy the facility.
No.
We were too busy putting on the channel's greatest show.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, of course, we always have to recap the event.
Yes,
for
we do.
Those who missed it.
Yes.
Those who want to relive it.
Yes.
Maybe, if you were busy doing one thing and don't know what happened somewhere else, we can help you out a little bit with that. And also, just to kind of close the book on this one, as we already start looking forward to next year's amazing show.
It never ends.
It never does.
No.
We come back and be like, so what are we going to do next year?
Yeah.
Like, come on, give us a couple months here, Dean. So that's it. We're talking VARTECH today. We're
Yes,
gonna
we
do
are.
A quick run through of what we did in some of the sessions, our keynote speakers, some of the interesting stuff we saw and heard about, the vibes of the show, what you need to take away from it, whether you were there or not. Mm-hmm. So all that and more is coming. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Welcome to BlueStar Nation. BlueStar Nation podcast is brought to you by ELO and the ELO Pay M100, which provides the ultimate rugged enterprise-grade mobile point-of-sale tablet in a slim, ergonomic design.
Did you say rugged payment tablet?
Rugged point-of-sale payment tablet.
Sheesh,
Yeah,
okay.
all the stuff.
Please continue.
Featuring a 10.1-inch FHD scratch-resistant touch display, integrated payment with PCI PTS 6.0 pin autumn glass, a flexible Android 12 OS, and a Qualcomm SD660 processor, the M100 Pay merges powerful performance with the security, unified architecture, and extended lifecycle that businesses require.
I would say that meets the requirement.
I would think so.
Yes, sir.
The M100 accepts payments from anywhere. I mean, anywhere.
Anywhere.
I mean,
like the moon?
Maybe.
Or are you saying like your tap swipe? And
Dip, tap, swipe? Yeah, that was not in this copy.
No,
but,
okay.
I'm sure it probably can handle all that. I mean, most
with the right
modern,
modularity, yes.
Yeah, most modern payment devices can do that.
Of course.
Again, I'll check on the moon thing. I'm not entirely sure about that. It includes integrated cameras, boasts sufficient battery life to last a shift, and can transition from mobile to fixed with a rotating POS dock that swivels from merchant to customer facing. To learn more and view additional specifications, check the link in the show notes or contact the BlueStar ELO team. All right, Dean, let's dig into the show, the numbers. So this was September 15th and 16th.
Yes.
We were at the Atlantis.
We were.
Bahamas on Paradise Island.
The beautiful
Atlantis. First time we've been there in a while. 2019 was the last time we were there. Pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic.
Our last hurrah before the pandemic.
That's right. Yep.
I'm excited to go back this year.
We dodged a hurricane then.
We did, yes.
And we did this year.
We did this time too, apparently. Well, I mean, there was rumblings.
There were rumblings, yes.
We were concerned.
We had to prepare some communications just in case.
We are absurdly lucky with that stuff. Has the VART? I mean,
yes, there's been one VARTECH.
Okay, I was wondering if anyone's actually been impacted.
It was in Cancun. I wasn't around, but apparently a hurricane did come through.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, well, so we haven't dodged it completely, but yes, we do get lucky.
That's a pretty for as many shows as we do in the Caribbean and Florida.
Yep.
That's pretty impressive that we've only actually one time had to have an actual issue with hurricanes there.
Now, there's been multiple times where it's been right before or right after us.
Where we're on the edge of our seats.
And the last time we were at the Atlantis, that was one of them. Actually, it was a pretty devastating hurricane that came about a week and a half before we were. But we incorporated a relief fund.
We were collecting for a
VARTECH.
Relief Fund. I forgot about that. Yeah, I do remember that.
So, but anyway, the Atlantis is beautiful. It is back. It is everything it always was.
It's an amazing place.
So
give us the kind of the rundown of the show. How many attendees do we have? Vendors, software companies. You have all those details for us.
I sure do. So we had 1,600 attendees about that this year, which is a little bit. I would say that would be a record.
Yeah.
And how we got there is we had a lot of guests this time around.
We really did.
That really kind of,
I guess makes sense.
yeah, it's the Atlantis. So people are just going to bring their spouses or significant others. And we had a lot of people do that, which is fine because, we like to see them in the evening and stuff like that. Our networking events, it's always nice to have your significant other, your spouse with you. Yeah. So that was really cool. So about 1,600 people were there, which is phenomenal.
Yes.
We had nearly 800 customers, about, almost close to 500 vendor reps there as well. Throw in some BlueStar people, some ISVs, and the guests, and that's how you get up to that number. So in there, though, we did have 128 total vendors that were sponsoring, which was awesome. 80 of those were hardware folks.
Right.
48 of them were ISVs, and of those 48, 18 ISVs were brand new, meaning they've never been to a VARTECH. Brand new to the channel. This is something that we always try to do, right? We try to bring in the new blood, the new ISVs, and indeed we had 18 of them, 17 of which presented during Tech Connect Live. So that was a great turnout as well, and that yielded a trade show floor that was abuzz the entire time.
It was.
We had some great new vendors on there. We had everything from, we had some EV charging going on there. Of course, the robotics going in there, but a lot of good new vendors as well that were on there. It was good numbers. From that standpoint,
definitely. And our theme this year was Join the Quest.
Join the Quest.
Because if you've never been to the Atlantis or seen this facility or know anything about it, there is they've leaned into kind of like a little bit of like an island, or like a Mayan kind of vibe in some places. Lost
it's like
City
a lost
of Atlantis.
City of Atlantis.
Obviously, like,
the Mayan,
the term,
very much that.
There's a lot of that kind of like, there's a nice, for the outdoor stuff, they've got like temples and stuff. There's like, like a ziggurat style temple that's actually got a water slide feature to it. They've got all these amazing like indoor and outdoor aquariums built into this place.
Yeah.
Like it's.
Well, they got the dig. So that's this aquarium that you walk through it, which is stunning in and of itself. But really as you're walking through it, it looks like you're walking through the artifacts of a sunken city or a lost city of some sort.
As if you're like, you're inside
they've
of it.
really, really done it well. And this is not an aquarium like we might have in Cincinnati where it's like, oh, those are cute, like tropical little fish, and you got a squid here. So they've got the big, huge manta rays. They've got big, huge sharks, and it is really, really
sea turtles,
stuff. That are as big as you.
It's pretty fascinating. So we decided, we got to lean into that.
Absolutely.
This has the vibe of searching for something that is lost. So we decided to join the quest. And, and that also obviously leans into the idea of like, hey, you come to shows like this, and you're looking for something. You're looking for new partners. You're looking for new opportunities. You're looking for new, technology and new solutions, new things to get out there and talk to your customers about. So that was our big theme this year. And to that end, we decided to have a little bit of fun with our opening this year.
Well, I don't know that we did. Maybe you forced us into a situation, which seems to be a recurring theme of some sort.
Well, it kind of is. We get these ideas.
So go ahead, John.
We get these ideas and come up with these themes, and then we're like, all right, well, how can we do something fun initially? So we started talking about like, well, why don't we come up with some cool little like video that we could play, at the start of all, because you always have this big opening session that you come out there and deliver a great message.
Yeah, we got to start the show with something.
Welcoming in,
bring a little energy to it. Yeah.
So we thought, hey, let's film something interesting to go on with it. It kind of evolved like from like maybe we do this in AI, and then turned into let's all go take a trip down to the Atlantis a few weeks ahead of time. Just you, me, Cordy, and our amazing videographer, Max Faust, that helped us out. Who's been here on the pod. You've seen him before. He's helped us out in the past. And shoot a little movie. And then...
more like a trailer.
Like a little trailer for like a quest where we had an adventurer that was going on a quest to find the key to VARTECH.
Yes.
And, the mishaps that occurred along the way. And sure, you guys said, hey, John, can you help us put this together and write this? And I did. And then at one point, Cordy looks at me and says... So who are you thinking is going to play the adventure? I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I could if you need me to.
Now, to level set, the adventurer here is Indiana Jones, basically.
Yes.
Because the way the opening is written, it's very much in the style, because we were laughing about that, and that was part of the creative process. It's like, let's mimic, some Indiana Jones type scenes.
Exactly. Yes. So yes, I got to fulfill a childhood fantasy, dress up like Indiana Jones.
I mean, we're talking full garb.
Yes, the
real bullwhip,
the leather jacket, the fedora, the bullwhip.
There you go.
all the accoutrements.
So hopefully we'll link to this so that people can watch.
I'm not going to drop the full video in here. It's fairly long, and most of you have probably already seen it or spotted it somewhere on our LinkedIn if you're following us at all. But I will put a link to the video so you can see it. But that escalated with a finale that actually occurred on stage.
Yes.
Where I had to precariously dodge a boulder in order to bring us full circle and bring you out. And but at the end of it, this sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot of fun. Every now and then I get to do some ridiculously fun, cool stuff for this job. Yeah. But there was a purpose behind this, which was the idea that I was searching for a key to VARTECH. Yes. And at the end, you come out and inform me that the key is not a thing. It's not this glowing orb, which actually, if you can see on camera, if you're watching the video version, is actually here in the studio now. It wasn't that it's not technology, it's not a thing, that it's the people. Yeah. And I thought there was a great message there at the end of the day that we turned up the house lights on all the attendees and hey, you guys are the key to VARTECH, you're what makes it special. And that was, again, we had a lot of fun, but ultimately there was a message there about people coming and gathering together and again, driving these partnerships and the idea of people networking together and getting together to explore the next iterations of our channel and where we're going next, and that being what the actual key to VARTECH is.
Now, in all seriousness, I think that was instrumental in framing people's mind around what VARTECH was about to do, or about to be. Right. And then I think that complemented really well, and I know we'll get into this with Zack Kass, who came in after that, who spoke about AI, but surprisingly had a very humanistic element to his presentation.
He did.
So I think anybody walking out of that general session on day one was the two overriding things to me were people are the difference. Yep. You're here. So the fact that we kind of really, really highlighted that in the beginning and in big Boulder format. And then it was, further hearkened by what Zack had. I really think that kind of set the tone. And the feedback that we're getting on the show is this was the best show from just a partnering and people engagement perspective. Right. Which I think was really instrumental in setting.
Yeah, that's what we wanted out of this.
That's exactly what we wanted out of it.
Okay, so in other words, you're telling me it wasn't just all me having fun.
It wasn't all you. I think you and your manifestations and all that good stuff set the stage really well.
I'm glad there was purpose behind it.
I will say this was also the most rigging we've ever used to kick off a show, because how do you roll an 8-foot wide boulder, which honestly was just a really big balloon, right? But still pretty big and wieldy. Yeah. So if you look back behind it, there had be big rails that look like train tracks coming down onto and they rolled it from a high. It was as high as the ceiling, which is I think a 32-foot ceiling or something like that, and that's where it started and rolled down. We had people in the back, we had riggers, gaffers, all kinds of stuff.
It was pretty
people pushing stuff. It was
pretty impressive.
There you are, getting all the glory in the front, comes out, dodges the bullet, almost gets a standing ovation.
Yeah, that part I wasn't expecting. We got done, people start clapping. I was just like, oh, okay.
Well, you played it really well, though. Yeah. You're like, I got to search my bag again. I got to adjust my hat for a second here. Wasn't expecting this round of applause.
There is a theater kid buried deep inside me that never got the opportunity to do that stuff because I never went to any schools that really had theater programs. Yeah. He got to go. He got to come out and play for a little bit.
Were people asking you that? Hey, have you ever been in the theater? People keep asking me. I'm like, bro, no. I'm a drummer, but I have zero acting.
I did have questions about that. Yeah. Is this the kind of stuff you've done before? Have you made movies and crap like that? I'm like, no. I'm just a guy who watches an obscene amount of movies and pretends that he's an actor sometimes, I guess.
There you go.
And so be it. So it was good. It was awesome. I can't complain about that. And again, I thought it made for a fun opening to the show that led us into our theme. Well, talk a little bit about, you got into a little bit of more industry overview and kind of explaining what was happening in the business. Talk a little bit about that. What kind of trends and vibes were we getting into that you think also kind of lent themselves to where the show was going?
Yeah, I think that we felt it was important. We understand that a lot of people, BlueStar has some unique perspectives on things. So we thought it was important to kind of just talk about some of those. And so we started off with some business trends, and we actually showed graphs where our business has been, an 11-year window, and we gave them, graphically showed them what our revenues look like as it relates to different technologies and different things that we have in the marketplace. So we were showing them, here's what our business looks like in ADC. Here's what our business is looking in POS. And just short commentaries, around why some of the numbers were moving and stuff like that. And all that kind of ended on RFID. And I know we just had, an RFID podcast the other day. This is the true hockey stick. I mean, people always talk about, oh yeah, well, we're just waiting for this business to take off. It's going to be a hockey stick someday. Well, lo and behold, it's here.
The charts prove it. Yeah.
So anyway, I think that people, hopefully people got out of that either, affirmation about what they're feeling in their business, or if they're seeing some trends, or maybe they were a little on the fence on something like an RFID. And now that they see that the business is truly, it's almost literally off the chart. Yeah. Maybe I should get in on something like that. So anyway, we thought it was important to kind of give a little bit of that context. Then we wanted to get into a couple other things that were, industry, just top of mind on the industry. So we talked a little bit about tariffs, what we're doing from a tariff perspective, just to make sure that everybody was aware, that we're kind of all in on helping everybody as it relates to tariffs. And some of the other things that we're doing behind the scenes was as it relates to sales forecasting. And of course, we're a distributor, so we wanted to talk about our inventory position and warehouse automation that we have going on and stuff like that. And then it also gave us the opportunity to frame up a couple initiatives that we really wanted to highlight throughout the show, which is our connectivity and networking, and what you're working on with Mike Bonicello and our BlueStar Academy. So, we really try to limit that to about 15 minutes before we bring on the keynote. I ran long, as I always did. It was probably about 22 minutes.
But there's a lot of good information.
A lot of good stuff there.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, then let's get into the keynote, because I honestly think this is one of the best keynotes we've ever had. Yep. I very much enjoyed this conversation with Zack. And I'll be honest, it was one of those ones where when we picked this guy and I was looking at his bio and, watched his little introductory video stuff, I wasn't sure what to expect out of him. So I was worried. Zack was the former head of go-to-market for OpenAI. Yep. You might have heard of them, a little thing called ChatGPT. And he's got this message about AI and about the humanistic side of things. And I wasn't sure if this was going to be another, all right, let's just talk about what AI can do and the glorious future that might happen from it, and, why you should be leaning in and that kind of stuff, which I think is a good message. But I think we've made a point, I know, on this podcast this year, and I think as a company to start approaching the AI topic of how are we going to do something practical with this?
That's right.
Where are there actual wins that are happening? Where are people deploying solutions with AI that are making a difference and improving business outcomes? How can you be utilizing it in your business to improve your day-to-day work and automate some workflows and augment your sales team, your marketing team, or whatever? And so I was a little concerned, is this going to be one of those kind of stepping back and just talking about the giant big picture of AI, or are we going to get to that? I was very much pleased with the fact that I think he did lean into the human side of it. Yes. And it was not what I expected out of there. A couple little quotes I wanted to throw out that he mentioned that I thought was really interesting and that resonated to me, one in my job, but also I think for our industry. He said, are you a thing, when he's talking about people buying stuff and the potential commoditization of buying and how the internet has created this places where you can go and find all the things the Amazons of the world, you can find everything there. Yep. And you got to go hunting around to find the thing you actually want. So he positioned that, that a good company is one where it says, are you a thing that they just need to buy, or are you a very important purchase? And to me, I'm that's everything that we're always talking about in this channel. Everything we're always talking about, what makes a value-added reseller or a strong solution partner is someone that's helping you solve problems and doing what you need them to do, and not just the person that says, I got a barcode scanner. Yeah. I got a printer. Do you need those? Great. Here you go. But instead someone that they rely on to come to for, I have a problem in my business and I need it solved. What do I need to do to get there? And you're working with them on that solution. Is that the kind of stuff that you took out of that too? Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I thought he did a very good job. Well, on multiple fronts. Yes. But kind of reeling back or going back a little bit, rewinding. Yeah, right. Because it's a process to pick your keynote, and you never know. Yeah. Honestly, if you've never seen them before, it's always a bit of a crapshoot. Right. It's I hope this turns out well. And sometimes you're never sure how much they know about or understand our industry. And we're a unique industry to understand 100% too. Yeah. And honestly, I was a little bit worried because we've been burned before on the word futurist. So Zack's people sent us, how to introduce him, and then he has an intro video that's a minute long.
And it starts out AI futurist, and that word just makes me cringe because I think I've told this story before, but the last time we had a futurist was the first time we were in San Antonio, so it was about 2016, maybe 17. And one of his big things was talking about how this new invention, the cell phone, and how it was going to revolutionize everything. And I just remember cringing in the back, like, wow, this guy, this speech that he was given would have been appropriate in 2000.
Right.
But everybody has an iPhone in their pocket.
Well over a decade beyond at that point, yeah.
It's like, I was just cringing. So he was a futurist. Yeah, no, he was terrible. No. So I always cringe at that, but Zack was really, really, really good.
Yeah.
He delivered everything. I mean, he started off with contextually, kind of what you would expect. Where are we? Here's where we're at. And he got a little granular on like the cost of tokens, which is what runs AI, and how it's now 10 cents for a million tokens, whereas just a year ago it was $4 and a year before that was $60.
Right.
So, he got into some of the mechanisms in the back inner workings of AI, but I thought he really did a good job of like framing out how society, it wasn't just our industry, but society should be utilizing AI and what our approach to it should be. And that's where he got into, I think, the whole humanistic qualities of it. Yeah, and I thought the story he told at the end really kind of brought it all home.
Yep. Yeah. I think, he very much, again, it was the kind of conversation where there was some easy parts you could pick out and be like, this is relevant and resonant to our business, our channel, that specific stuff. There was that there, but I think this is what stuck out to a lot of folks. And when I talked to people afterwards and they were impressed by was, again, that he did get into the humanistic side of things, that he acknowledged like the places where we're doing things that are working and the places where we're doing things that aren't.
Yep.
He acknowledged that, like a lot of technologies, we're probably going to make a lot of mistakes with AI.
Yep.
It's probably going to be, it potentially could be awful for a few years before it actually gets to where we need it to be.
Yeah, right.
And, he talked a lot about like bad actors who will take and use this technology to harm others and steal from others. And
how policy needs to keep up with that.
Exactly.
He did go into like a policy, he had... And I never really cringed at it because you always worry about people because you bring up policy now, you're bringing up politics and stuff like that. But I think he really did it really well.
It was never like a divided sides of an issue.
No,
it was more of like a, hey, we all know where we want to get with this, and we all can get here, but it is going to require a broad effort on the part of people, on the part of governments, on the part of businesses to get us where we need to be. And again, that we're going to stumble a lot. A couple of things that he said that really stood out to me, getting into the more like personal side of things. He talked about this idea, and I remember I talked to James Cordy about this, and he was really kind of like, man, I don't know how I feel about this. The idea of getting to a point where compute will be displayless.
Yes.
That our personal computer will no longer be on phones and devices, but it will be...
He referred to it as the display.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like you would no longer have a display. It would be more of just like a personal assistant of sort that you're communicating with, and that like the internet would potentially follow that as well, where you're no longer, again, going to those sites where there are 6 billion options for you, but that you're going to be using AI agents to go scrub through the hidden side of the internet, get all the stuff that you need and bring it to you and show you just what you actually need. Or again, that rather than, and I guess it took me a while to understand this. I literally rewatched his speech again this morning, and then I started to understand a little bit more of what he meant about the displayless thing, which is rather than us having to pick up our phones or get in front of a computer, do all this searching and typing and clicking and looking around to get to the things we want, that we potentially would have an agent and assistance that would understand who we are already, bring stuff to us before we even really ask for it, or when we do ask for it, go out and do that work themselves and then bring us just what we actually need, or just take care of it on our behalf for us. But the other part of that was a bit of a warning too about, and I feel like this is like, getting into like, we always joke about the movie WALL-E, and like the future that they showed of humans that got just, lazy and, completely disconnected is that cautionary tale part of it. I think that he was really good at explaining too, of like, hey, yeah, that's out there. We can do that. And we might get ourselves to that point, but we got to be careful about how we utilize that. Is it going to be that we just allow the agents to go do this stuff for us while we just sit around in our homes and stay disconnected? Or do we take this opportunity to alleviate burdens off of our life and get back out into communities and start fostering and developing relationships?
Which is where he would land, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he was very much into, this is all going to enable us to be a community again.
Exactly.
to get to be and interact with one another and be human. That's the whole human
Which
side
I think is a fascinating discussion, especially, in the post-COVID world where, we... whether we wanted to or not, we had to become very isolated for a period of time, and unfortunately, a lot of that isolation that was created has kind of held over. And there's things that came out of it that I guess in some ways could be considered as beneficial, but ultimately, an already a path that a lot of humanity was already going down of finding ways to be increasingly disconnected became even more so, and
exacerbated. Right,
and there's an opportunity for that to still continue to happen with AI and these other technologies, but if we are playing our cards right, maybe it helps us get back to where we need to be. And that was the part of the message of like, man, I love that.
It was good.
And he also leaned into, which, we've talked about this on the pod before, like this idea of separating work from your identity and talking about how the future of AI may help us work less and may actually afford us more time. And he acknowledged, like, this is the part of the conversation that I get a lot of pushback on, and is very controversial when I tell people that, hey, maybe there's a future where you're not actually really working anymore, and you don't have to work,
because that's how people
live.
associate their lives. It's like, well,
exactly. Ultimately, and I felt this way when I listened to it again. Like, he's describing the future that Star Trek has always portrayed. If I'm going to get into my nerd side, the futuristic, humanistic world that Star Trek always portrays is this futuristic, non-capitalist society, where there's money's no longer a concern ever. There's no wanting. There's no, there's no need to, there's no haves and have-nots anymore. It's just everybody has what they need, and you are free to pursue the things that you care about and are interested in. And it's one of those things that sometimes you look at it and you go like, I don't know if humanity's capable of that. But then I hear what he has to say, and I'm like, but there is a path that could get us there.
Good.
Hopefully, that'd be awesome if we get there. It's probably not going to happen in our lifetime.
It's just hard to perceive living in the world we perceive right now.
It very much is.
It seems very, very foreign. I mean, conceptually, I get it. But getting there and like, how would I rearrange my life? I don't know, because we're in this world. So anyway, as you can tell, he was very thoughtful.
It was very impactful.
It was really dense too. So, the fact that I rewatched it too, and I learned a lot more. Yeah. So it is the kind of thing we do. We'll have that link up on our website.
Yep, definitely check that out. He's also got a book coming out, which I honestly, I don't often be like, somebody said they have a book, I'm going to go buy it. But this is one I think I'm probably going to actually buy. And
Insider info. They're sending us like 100 copies.
Oh, sweet.
I got one for you.
Sweet. Thanks.
There you go.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. All right, let's shift over to the trade show floor.
The other big part of the show.
That's where the trade show. Yeah, that's where the excitement happens. We have this thing open for about a combined 7 hours over 2 days, I think, where people can go out, meet all of our amazing vendors that are sponsoring the show, all these new ISVs you talked about that were there. Yep. What was the vibe like for you when you were out on the floor? How did you feel? What were you seeing out there?
Well, the vibe was awesome. And apparently we didn't have the show floor open long enough.
I guess not.
One of the feedbacks that I've already gotten is like, man, you could have had that floor open a little bit longer. I'm like, bro, it was open for 7 hours.
I don't know how much more we could do.
About?
Yeah. I mean, literally
like a whole day of just exhibiting. Maybe we should do that. Maybe that's,
Maybe, I don't know,
New idea, but I thought the vibe was really, really good. We had a couple things on the show floor, the aforementioned initiatives that we're working on. And one of the ones that was just packed the whole time was the island line and connectivity. I really feel like, of course, we were promoting it. We gave away Flexi Sims as a part of that. And if you're listening to this and want a free trial version of that, we can get you one. Just send us an email. But, there was a lot of buzz around that. And then, just the traditional, I think a lot of people... because we talked about how the fact that a lot of the manufacturers are getting into AI and people really need to start to understand what the vendors are doing. I think hopefully some people took that to heart, and because there's just a lot of activity on the show floor. I mean, just a lot of talking, a lot of people walking around, meeting with the ISVs. So I would say in general, the vibe was just a buzz the whole time.
Yeah,
the whole time.
It's funny because some years I don't get a chance to get out on the show floor very much. We were always busy.
Oh, and I was doing all your announcements for you, but anyway.
Were you? Thank you. Yes. I appreciate that. I know I totally failed on that one this year, but to be fair, we also were heavily promoting stuff through our app. We had all these push notifications going out.
Yes. So Subdivide and Conquer. We did.
We were.
Yes.
But I did get out there. Well, it was actually by necessity. There was a day I got out there because I was talking to a lot of vendors that had ordered up lead capture or whatever, and making troubleshooting some stuff, making sure that was all working. But while I was out there, as you're checking in with people and making sure, hey, is this thing going well? A lot of times like, yeah, it's going great. Hey, by the way, this has been great. We're having all kinds of people coming up. I just had a great conversation with XYZ. We appreciate you and, having us here. I did honestly feel like people were just very much excited from the vendor side of things, the ISV side of things. They were very much engaged and excited and felt like they were getting traffic. Like there was very few times when I saw a booth with just no one at it.
No one at it. Yeah.
Right. There was plenty of times when I wanted to go talk to someone and I had to wait 5 minutes for someone to leave or
wrap up a combo.
Or I was grabbing the one person, there was 2 or 3 people there and I grabbed the one person that wasn't immediately engaged with the conversation. And there's been in the past times when I've walked through and you see 3 or 4 booths that just no one's at and it's one thing towards the end of
the last day
or something. But even
especially
then,
at a place like the Atlantis.
Yeah,
we expected them to be at the pool or maybe they're going to go to the beach or, which is something we definitely don't want them to do. But no, they were there.
Yeah. And I'll say that even, I didn't put this in the notes for us to talk about, that even bled over into the education sessions. We always have these tracks of, people can, listen in on discussions and panels about, particular industries or types of technology. And we ended on day 2 with these boot camp digitals, which we've worked with them before in a previous show.
Yep.
It's Krista Nair and her team, they come in and they basically just what it sounds like. They give you a digital boot camp to help you out with digital strategies, with
it's like really dense stuff for an hour.
Improving your social media. They had one this year called AI Like a Pro, which essentially was all about
that was the number one signed up class.
It was. We had well over 150, 60 people, I think, that signed up for it. And more importantly, is apparently a lot of people showed up.
Yeah.
Because again, it's one thing to have a lot of people sign up.
Right.
Sometimes, again, by the time you get to the end of that second day, and it's the last thing of the day, and there's the beautiful Bahamas out there. I mean, we had nice sunny weather. We had an evening event coming up people were getting ready for, but apparently that room was packed and people were engaged and they were excited and they were interested in what they were hearing about. And I love that. I just feel like this vibe throughout the whole show was a lot of engagement and excitement from folks.
And before we leave the trade show, I want to give a shout out to the exhibitors who leaned into the theme. Because we were intentional this year. Last 2 years, we've been intentional about trying to release the theme as early as we possibly can.
Right.
So that people can start planning on it.
Yeah.
And damn it, if they didn't. TSC, Honeywell, Zebra, all of them leaned in and had great booths and extras, that kind of went along with the theme. And I just wanted to say thanks because we're going to keep doing that. Yeah. Because I think that adds to the community, right?
Really
like
does.
You walk around and I don't know if we do an anime one some year or something like that, but it's like everybody's getting into the, certain booths got into it by dressing up and
Spacepole. Because they did last Spacepole actually Spacepole actually dressed in astronauts last year.
They did.
They had the space theme.
Yep.
This year they had out 2 different sets of outfits for both days. First day were like pirate outfits, and the second day was just like general explorer outfits.
There you
kind
go.
of thing going on.
Yes.
They totally was just buying in. Yep, let's do this.
Yep.
We're on board.
This is where we're going. Yeah. So
love it.
anyway, I think that really helps out with just the overall feel of the show.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, people are walking around. Of course, we've got it decorated as such, and then they walk into the exhibit floor.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of got that theme going, so it contributes to the vibe.
Yeah. Good theme is important.
Yeah.
And, and again, it's one of those things where sure the join the quest aspect obviously had some meaning behind it, but at the same time we're like, hey, we're doing this adventurous Indiana Jones
and I think
Tomb Raider
next year
theme.
we can probably up our game a little bit by maybe trying to get the attendees to play into the theme as well.
I think that would be fun.
Whatever our theme is next year,
I think that would be a good idea.
I think it would have been good because I know quite a few attendees that probably would have leaned in and brought a bullwhip and a hat.
I think Elo, gave out the hats. We had the branded hats,
fedora,
fedoras that looked a lot like indies.
Yep.
I saw a lot of people wearing those around. When we did that in San Antonio, we gave cowboy hats. A lot of folks are wearing those. So there's something to be said for something that people can just stick on their body and wear around during a show. I feel like we need to figure out how we're going to do that every year from now
that's
on.
Right. So, yeah.
Let's talk briefly about day 2, the opening session. We did our usual Tech Connect Live, which we subtitled The Search for Solutions this year. Same as always, where we like you mentioned earlier, we had 17 brand new ISVs that were new to the show. They came out on stage, gave a quick 90-second pitch for who they are, what they're there for, what they're looking for in partners, inviting you to come meet with them and talk to them and learn more about them. I thought that went very well. A lot of those folks mentioned after the fact that they got more traffic at their booth and and a lot more people were inquiring about them. And then we sprinkled in between that some, a little bit of our value adds, stuff that we wanted people to, to learn more about. The connectivity piece was there. You interviewed Jim and Dave Farquharson, who had them on
He's
the
been
podcast.
on the show.
Yeah. We talked about with them with that. Cordy came out and did a whole riff on LinkedIn.
He did great. Yeah.
How to up your LinkedIn game.
Yep.
Amazing stuff. Again, all these videos, we're going to link to this stuff. You can find it. I highly recommend checking it out if you weren't there. And then the other thing, which, we're going to talk more about this in the future, and honestly, we probably should have Mike on to maybe even talk about this at some point, is BlueStar Academy.
Oh, we definitely need to bring him on. Yeah.
Which is our initiative where basically we put in the effort. We listened to our folks, people telling us that they were struggling with getting new reps trained, understanding how the channel works, understanding all the various technologies that are out there, all the kind of partners. Especially if you're bringing someone in that knows nothing about.
I mean, who knows this industry?
Business? Yeah, exactly.
We are so niche that it's like nobody knows.
Yeah, or maybe I mean, it's possible. Maybe you have like one small piece of it. Like maybe you understand a lot about barcoding or something, but you've never sold mobile computing, or you don't know anything about RFID, or you have no idea how POS works or whatever.
Right.
So we thought, hey, you know what? We've heard this. We got this feedback. Let's do something about it. So we went out and we brought in Mike Monticello, who many folks may know from DevPro Journal.
Yep. And the RSPA is on the board.
Yeah, someone who knows a lot about this industry already, is very well embedded and understands a lot of these technologies. And he has been building from the ground up an entire, coursework essentially. We did a test run of this a few weeks back around the end of August, and he built a whole course on barcoding and RFID as like an introductory one. And we've got a whole learning management system that he's building out all this content in. We're going to do in-person trainings. We'll have online trainings available.
Yeah.
He has taken the reins of this and ran with it with very little supervision from us. It's more or less just like, hey, Mike, here's what we want. He's like, okay, right. I got it. Yeah. And he did it. Yeah. So we had him come up and talk a little bit about it and riff on what that is.
Yeah, so good to finally announce that.
It really, very much so. We're excited to get that out there. There's going to be much more information coming on that soon.
For sure.
We're planning on launching this full force next year. We will have at least 4 in-person trainings throughout the year, maybe even more if we can squeeze them in. Again, there'll be online content. So if you are needing a little more,
absolutely.
If you have reps that are changing focus or new technologies that are that they're not sure about, but also and more importantly, brand new folks that are coming in that just don't know enough about this industry. And we heard from folks that were telling us it can take up to a year sometimes to get someone on board. I mean, I'll speak from my experience coming to BlueStar and not understanding much about the channel and how things worked. I feel like it took me a solid year just to even understand and wrap my head around how the channel worked.
What is this?
Yeah, let alone all the various technologies and what I was supposed to know about those. So we're excited to do this. We're looking forward to rolling it out.
We did come out with a cool little tagline during this, that the BlueStar Academy can turn your rookies into revenue generators faster. And that's what it's all about, right? How do we do that? I thought the day 2 was really, really well received. It got great feedback at just the pace of Tech Connect Live and integrating in some of the initiatives that we're doing.
Agreed.
Every year we usually cover the top ISV. Now last year, unfortunately, this year we had nobody that sung theirs. Like,
that's true.
What was her?
Stephanie Podger from Tigo. Yes.
Tigo sung and just stole the show.
Yes.
It's just stole the show.
And that wasn't a standard we were holding anyone to.
Although we were kind of hoping, maybe somebody would come
I would have been upset.
If it was me, I would have gone up there with like a snare drum or something like that and tried to do something, some paradiddles in the middle.
Exactly. Yeah.
But my top ISV, I don't know if you have one because I know I'm asking you cold. I thought MikaFlex did a really good job, and Andre, because they're a soft POS payments solution, and that is one of those like sleeper things that's really going to start impacting the industry. And so I'm glad we had them and they were on the show floor and they were extremely busy after Tech Connect Live. This is just one of those little pieces of technology that's really. It could be very, very game changing over the next 2 to 5 years, I'd say, in our industry. So anyway, that was my top.
I visited their booth at some point too, and actually talked to John Mika. It's one of those things like I didn't realize there was an actual Mika behind MikaFlex. Right. It's like, hey, we got the actual namesake here. But they were excited to be there. They were excited what people had to say. The questions they had and the interactivity they got. I thought we had a lot of great ones out there. There were like I do feel very much like. A lot of the folks that we brought in this year, especially a lot of these new ISVs, really lean into the idea of niche solutions, of addressing needs in the market that no one else is really doing right now. It's easy to, just come in and be like, I'm just another asset tracking thing. There's dozens of those out there, but, and we're always very specific with these folks too when we tell them, about their opportunity to do this is like, hey, tell people what makes you stand out. I think everyone rose to that challenge. They very much, were on board with the idea of standing out and being a little bit different and explaining, why their solution, what the necessity of it is, specific industries and specific problems that they're able to solve. And to me, that's kind of the golden nuggets that people are looking for when they want to figure out if they want to get on board with a new partner.
Yep. Yeah, I'm agree.
And the last thing I'll mention is, obviously AI was still the hot topic.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think that's ever going to. I don't think it's going to change for a very long time.
No, right.
I don't know what the next thing after AI could possibly be to move us beyond that. But, talk about that. What did you see? What did you hear? What did you notice? Do you feel like the AI conversation did feel different? Because, again, I think a lot of the folks that were talking about it and the way we talked about it was different. Do you feel like there was a difference in how that was working out too?
I do, only because, and again, we tried to give people a little bit of warning going into the show before they got on the exhibit floor, is that, look, a lot of these vendors have strategies. They're not just talking about them anymore. They are deploying AI strategies into their hardware, the back end. I mean, Zebra, Honeywell, Elo, they all have, and beyond that, they all have AI plays. Whether it's LLM integration into their system, so now you just have a built-in LLM that you can integrate into either your WMS or whatever it may be. I mean, so again, they all have these strategies, and so I was encouraging people, go and just listen to what they're doing. They're building these platforms. Yep. You need to understand them so that you can be a part of what's going on. So I think that was happening. I think that people were actually walking around and doing that. We also encourage people to look. You got to develop your ecosystem. Yep. If you're going to play in AI, you got to go out. And so I think that leads to just more conversations with the ISVs. We had a couple of them on the floor that were AI specific. Yep. So that's good. So yes, I do think that was probably, it was a dominant topic, just across the board. And we kind of set it up that way with Zach. And, we did, yeah. And we were trying to move it that direction. And I think that was the case. Yeah, and I think very much, again, it was the idea of the tangible, the idea of the practical, the idea of stop talking about the future. Let's focus on the right now. Yep. We had a U.S. breakout, where that Intel co-sponsored with us, and a lot of that conversation was about how to get your sales teams to be ready to have these conversations, how to enable them to focus on solutions and solution selling, and not just not just the general, like, well, I've got AI. Does anybody want AI? Knocking on doors. Would you like some AI in your business? Are you looking for AI? Yeah. If I got AI for you.
Figuring out how to, and I thought I thought the most important part of that really resonated with me is the idea that, like, look, AI is not the solution, the final solution. It is part of how you get to a solution. It is what you can potentially use either within your business to help you develop better solutions, or as an aspect of a solution that will help, again, solve a problem and overcome a challenge. Yeah. And we had a panel up there. We talked with them about that. And Luke Wilwerding, who's been on the podcast many times, once again got into that conversation about being AI ready and understanding that, like, hey, maybe this isn't something that you feel is part of your business right this second. Maybe you're not even sure if it will be anytime soon, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't be talking about it. You should be thinking about it, paying attention to the vendors and the ISVs of the world that are already playing with it, watching what their strategies are, figuring out what that could mean to you and your particular industry segment that you're targeting. Yep. And again, just being ready. There you go. That was a prevailing theme, I think, of the show is. Yeah, I agree. It doesn't have to be the right now, but just make sure you're ready in the right place so that when it really does start happening, you're not at the back of the line trying to figure out what to do. Yes. It needs to be more than just on your radar, to use our phrase. Exactly. It needs to start. Yes, I agree with everything you said. Yep. It was good, though. There you go. All right, we'll wrap up here in a moment with some final thoughts and takeaways from the show. Before we do that, a quick note of what's happening around BlueStar Nation. I think I originally had on the notes BlueStar Academy, but I'm pivoting on that a little bit. We'll talk about that more next week. Yes. But hey, we actually have an interesting upcoming webinar. So if you sell into the retail space, there is a special upcoming webinar that you won't want to miss with the partnership of our friends at Intel and IHL Group. The 2026 Retail Intelligence Briefing will provide an economic update with the latest data on inflation, tariffs, employment, impacts to retail, and as they refer to the street level ground truth. I like that. I like that idea. Yeah,
street level ground truth.
We're gonna give it to you straight and tell you what's actually happening out there on the street. They're going to focus on which technologies have moved the needle in 2025 and where retailers are investing in 2026 and why. Oh, and there will be a special appearance by some of your favorite faces from BlueStar to talk a little bit about what these trends mean for our channel, how you can adapt and capitalize within your business. So check out a link in the show notes to register for the event, and you can watch it live on October 9th or sign up and you'll get a recording link to check out later. It's going to be some good stuff.
Yes.
All right, let's, as always, of course, if you like what you're hearing about on the show, you want to reach out to us, you have some thoughts and ideas for next year's VARTECH.
Yes, we'll take them.
If you got some good suggestions for a theme or something you'd be willing to dress up and do when you got to the show. We'd love to hear from you. Send that stuff over to us. Let us know what you want to hear about on the show. What kind of topics should we be covering? What kind of guests do you want us bringing on? We'd be excited to hear from you. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Find us on the BlueStar LinkedIn page, of course, or email us directly at anytime, nation@bluestarinc.com. All right, Dean, let's wrap up a little final VAR value.
Yes.
Again, let's talk to some of our VARs that didn't get to go. And I know a lot, we as much as we would love to bring everybody,
can't bring everybody.
There's only so many people we can bring.
That would be like Burning Man. We'd have to do something out in the desert somewhere if we brought everybody.
Oh God, no, thank you. Yeah,
really.
That sounds
Doesn't it
taxing.
sound horrible?
It does. Yeah. So, is there any final takeaways you have? Anything you would suggest that people think about if they weren't there to kind of describe what we felt?
Well, one we've already covered, but I'll go over it again. But to your point, like, okay, I couldn't attend. What were some of the big things? I'm going to go back to one of the initiatives that we had, that there's money in data. So in the transmission of data. Yeah. So, I feel bad for the folks that weren't there to get the iOnline message, to get the Flexi SIM so that they can now start to think about, well, okay, so I've been selling these handheld devices or these kiosks or these things that are connected. How can I start making money on the transmission of that data? Well, you can. So you need to learn about our connectivity program. Just go to our website, and log some time with Jim Hilton and the emerging tech team. We've got a whole team of guys now that are involved in this and in moving this forward. So for those that didn't attend, I feel bad that they didn't get, weren't able to absorb.
But I promise you, Jim will be excited to help you out.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So you need to do that. And then the other thing is just getting into the AI game. We just talked about it, but just to highlight it even more, it was the top session. AI Like a Pro from the Digital Bootcamp. I think, when you tally it up, it was close to a third of the attendees went to that or signed up for that. So it is on everybody's mind.
That rolled over in other education sessions too. Like we had an emerging tech session that was heavy on AI. There was one about AI in retail, smarter stores. A lot of people signed up for that. One that AIM did, where they talked about IoT and the progression to AI. All those sessions were by far the top attended and registered sessions.
But here's the good news is that, if you go to BlueStarInc.com, click on events, click on VARTECH, I think by the time this goes out or very soon after, you can get some of those presentations. We're going to load those up. You can watch the video.
We don't want you to miss out.
Excuse me. You can see the keynote. You can see some of the things that all the things we've been talking about here. So you still can get some of the value of VARTECH, even though you weren't there. Anyway,
you may miss out on some of the sunshine.
That's right.
A few less alcoholic beverages.
Some of the networking.
Yes. I'm sorry you missed that.
But the content,
right? Which,
you can get
let's
a lot
be honest,
part
that's
of
the important part of it.
That's right.
That's the actual part that's of value there. I agree with all those things. I think the other part of the show that I think we lean into, like I said, again, from that very end of the opening little skit, was the idea of people.
Yes.
And leaning into the idea that people matter, not the things. And I think that all evolves again into this overall larger strategy and discussion we're always having about leaning into solutions and leaning into how you can help and how you can solve problems, like not just being a commodities provider and selling a thing, but selling yourself. That was another point that I think that Zach made that really stood out to me, is the idea like I think he mentioned at some point the folks in the room. He says you're not here because you know everything about the things you sell. You're not good at your job because you know all the things about the things you sell. You're good at your job because people like buying from you.
Yeah, that's it.
And to me, that is the ultimate. That is what makes a value-added reseller. That is what
valuable.
Makes value. That's a big. I mean, yes, there's other stuff maybe you do that's that you think is your value adds. But at the end of the day, it's probably your people that really make a difference.
Yeah, no, I thought it was, and it's
lean into
dead,
it.
Exactly,
Yep.
and it's dead on into the show.
Even as we start talking about AI and all this stuff or whatever, because at the end of the day, AI is going to help people be more people. Again, if we're following Zach's logic,
that's right.
We get to maybe go back.
I liked his vision. I want people to be more people.
I do too.
Yeah,
I would love
good.
that.
We got a lot of stuff to work out.
Exactly. All right, let's wrap up as always with what's on our radar. This is where we get to talk about something in the world of science, tech, business, innovation, just something we've got our eye on, or interesting story that came along that we felt the need to talk about. So what's on your radar, Dean?
Well, this one's a little close to my heart because I like to exercise outdoors. So the study highlights the mental health benefits of actually exercising outdoors as opposed to indoors. So, I am that guy that at 6:30 in the morning is the guy running down the side of the street. And you're like, who is this guy? What is he doing?
As you're barely awake and sipping on your first coffee.
100%. Yes. No, barely. No, I'm barely awake running too, by the way. And most runners that run at that time would be. But anyway, I love being outside. And this is one of those things I bug my wife about because she likes to walk. We've got a treadmill downstairs. I'm like, baby, you got to get out into the world. She prefers to be down there. So anyway, now I'm going to cite this little study that happened. So it's not a very verbose study, but the University of Copenhagen and Verona came up with a study. They had 25 guys go out for an hour at a walking pace, the same pace in every 3 areas, and they put them in 3 different settings: natural, urban, and then the gym. And they did some quantifiable stuff, and then they asked them, how do you feel and stuff like that. So participants felt significantly more relaxed and had lower levels of stress hormone cortisol after walking in nature, right? So be outside. On a physiological level, researchers measured that the participants' heart rates dropped more quickly after walking in nature. Additionally, heart rate variability, which shows how well your body's nervous system goes into recover, was 20 to 30% higher than outdoors than it was indoors. So anyway, there is some quantifiable evidence that says, it's not just a feel-good thing, but there's actually, I don't know what it is. I guess for me, that's just like, it's everything. It's from the birds chirping to not slipping on the wet ground to, it's just being outdoors is so much better.
When you're out there, are you someone that's out there like with AirPods in, listening to something, enjoying something? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I know some people,
but I have over the ear because I want to still hear what's going on around me. Because I do run in the street, so I don't want to be.
Well, you don't.
I've got reflective gear on, all that kind of good stuff. Lights in the wintertime, I'll have like a big miner's light on my forehead. I'm that guy. So I can. Because I know some people they think, well, if I'm going to do this, I need to the best way to do it is have nothing distracting, like nothing I'm listening to, just be alone with my thoughts. And sometimes I don't want to be alone. I do that sometimes.
I want to enjoy a good podcast.
It depends on the day, but I would say most of the time I do have over the ear, and I'm listening to a podcast. But there are some days where I'll wake up and I don't want anything in my ear. I just want to go. I just want to go and listen to the stream and hear the birds and the wind through the trees and stuff like that. And I love those days too. So yeah. I don't
know if this is the same study, but I just saw an article recently. It was referencing the idea that people are just generally, after they go for an outdoor walk or do anything outside, that just actually makes them happier.
Yeah.
It's
for sure.
That there's a noticeable difference between people that exercise outdoors versus indoors, that it's just a happiness factor that comes out of it somehow.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah. And I'm kind of on board with you on this. I've gotten more into regular exercise over the last few years.
All you need to do is walk.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, you don't have to be a runner. You don't have to, if you're someone that can do the gym stuff and the, intense stuff or whatever, and really work at it, fine, that's great. But really just a nice, 20, 30-minute walk most days of the week, is more than enough. And doctors will even tell you that's more than enough. Now, I am someone who, during the wintertime, when it's super cold and it's raining,
you're not crazy like me.
I'm usually on the elliptical in the basement instead. And I found value in that. But I also will say that usually when winter's over and I can finally get back out, or in those days where it's not snow and ice and it's just, not ridiculously cold and I can take the outdoor walk, I do find I like those more. And I will say, I also feel like it's a little bit of a better workout. Like just walking, even just like walking the streets, like sometimes I'll find, I can feel it more in my legs.
Patty will say that. She's like, man, it's a lot more of a workout walking on pavement than it is my treadmill. I'm like, yeah, because your treadmill's kind of like helping you walk along.
Even if you're doing the incline stuff or like, have the kind that's like changing your environment or whatever as you're working out, it's still the actual physical outdoor thing is better.
And now you've got some science behind
there
that
you go.
as well. There you go.
I'm all over that.
So what's on your radar, my friend?
So I have a simple question.
Oh boy.
What's happening with popular mechanics?
I don't know. But I used to love that back in the day.
Have you noticed this? So this is a very popular.
You're talking about the magazine, right?
Yeah, okay. This is a very popular magazine for a while. Granted, not one that's been on my radar for a very long time, of something that I felt the need to read regularly. But I remember it being a place you go to learn about what's happening in the world of science and innovation and technology. And it was very much about like what's happening out there. Well, again, I'm not following that magazine regularly or anything, but as when I jump into my Apple News app, sometimes a lot of popular mechanics stories will pop up as like a suggested story. I don't ever get a chance to really click in and read them because it's always under like the News Plus that I'm not paying the extra for. Yeah. But most of the headlines now are about stuff like aliens, time travel, metaphysical topics. Okay. Like is reality real? Are we living in this simulacrum? Conspiracy
I don't even know what that is. Okay, yes.
Sci-fi concepts.
So what has happened?
I don't know. I don't know if they just
You're just asking the question.
I'm just kind of asking. I mean, like, this isn't a judgment on them because I'm into all that stuff in a science fiction context. Like I enjoy that kind of stuff in my entertainment.
No, I would not think to go there for that kind of stuff.
That's not what I remember them being in the past when I would be able to pick up a popular mechanic like in the school library or something and thumb through it. It was a place you went sometimes to research something for a science paper.
For sure.
But apparently they're leaning pretty heavily into the more exotic side of the more fictiony side of science.
Clickbait draws revenue. That's the only thing I can think of.
Maybe I'm sure they probably made a conscious choice about like, hey, we can draw in a whole new segment, and obviously we know like print is struggling big time, and maybe as they shifted away, they figured out how can we draw the internet in and, a basic story about, I don't know, how automobile engines work maybe is not.
Now I need to go to Popular Mechanics, see if they did a Taylor and Tyler or Travis headline at all to try to get the clickbait going.
I don't know, but it's one of those things where like every now and then I kept seeing articles pop up and it would be like, scientists are certain that aliens exist and they've been here. Here's the proof. And I'm like, about to go click on it. I'm like, no, this is one of those ones I got to pay extra for. I'm like, no, mind. But I started noticing that a lot of those were popular mechanics. I'm like,
wow. All right. So
you guys okay over there?
Yeah, we need an investigation.
Yeah, do you need some help? Like, did you let one guy kind of run wild over there? So, I don't know. Check it out. If you're someone that has an actual access to popular mechanics, maybe
drop us a line. Tell us what's going on. Yeah.
Tell us what's happening over there. Is it fun and interesting, or is it kind of weird? That is what's on our radar this week.
Good stuff.
We are done talking about VARTECH.
All right.
Right.
Until next year. That's
until
right.
next year. Yeah, exactly. Or until next month. Let's be honest.
There you go.
We'll be talking about it in no time. But that's because the quest never ends.
Nice.
Until next time, folks, we'll see you out there in the nation.